Good day everyone. In this video we are going to focus on Windows deployment services, and what you're going to see is I'm going to set up and configure Windows deployment services, and I'm going to use that to deploy an operating system onto a virtual machine that I'll create later on in this video. The operating system that I'll be using is Windows 7 Enterprise. So first to begin, we need to locate and install Windows deployment services. If you don't have it, you could go into Server Manager. You click on Roles, choose Add Roles, and ensure that you check Windows deployment services. Then you click Next and you follow along with the process until you see Install. After you've clicked Next, you will see two things at the top here. Make sure they are both checked as well, and continue along. So once you have installed Windows deployment services, you go into administrative tools. You will see Windows deployment services at the bottom here. You click on it, and this is the screen that comes up. On servers, if you expand servers, as you can see, I have my domain name, my machine name followed by my domain name. If you do not see yours, you'll have to it will give you the option to add or configure a server. You right click on servers. If you don't see your machine and domain name, I will go to add server and follow along. If you wish to get these folders here, you would have to right click on the machine and you see the option to configure server, I believe, and you have to go through some settings which I'm going to show you. So I right click on my server, go into properties, and these are some of the options that will be displayed. If I go to PXE response settings, you will come across this while you configuring your server. I chose the option to respond to all known and unknown client computers. In DHCP, I chose the options of do not listen on port 67 and configure DHCP option 62 PXE client. If you do not tick do not listen on port 67, I believe if you see this green arrow here, that it won't see the green arrow. That means the service won't be able to start unless this box has been checked. I believe this box could be checked, but I have chosen to check the box. I'm just ensure that no other settings you'll need to go through. And that's it for now. And let's say when that is done, you should see these folders here. We're going to focus on the first two folders: install images. This is where the images for your ISO will be stored. Boot images. This is where the setup for the ISO will be stored. So if I were to right click on install images and go to add install image, here you could create a new group for your images. I already have one called Windows OS. If I click next, it will ask me to browse for the image file. The image file is similar to this boot.wim. Let's see if I could locate one to show you. I believe I don't have one here at the moment. Okay, so I don't have one at the moment, but you should, when you go into your drive, and you should see a folder called sources. You go into sources and you look for install.wim. That's only when they asking for the image file. And once you have located the install.wim, you click next and follow along with the process. The same for boot images. Go to add boot image, browse, see boot.wim. I will select that. It will appear here and I will continue the process. And when that is done, in install images, you should see the name of the operating system you wish to, well, you'll see a list, but what I want to use right now is Windows 7, and you should see it have the name there, Windows 7 Enterprise. In boot images, this is the booting process for the Windows 7 Enterprise. So if I minimize this, now I need to create a virtual machine so that I can deploy Windows 7 Enterprise onto. So I'm going to open up the VirtualBox Manager. I'm going to click New. I'm going to name it Windows 7 V2. I'll choose Windows 7 64-bit. I'm going to leave it default, the memory size, leave it default. I have an option to create a virtual hard drive now. Yes, I will create a virtual hard drive now. Ensure that you select VirtualBox disk image. And I'm going to leave it default as. Once again, just check the folder where I want to store it. Click create. I can see this is the machine that I have created. Alright, before beginning to boot it up so that I can deploy the Windows 7 OS onto it, I need to configure some settings. So if I right click, go to settings. Okay, before I do that, if I go to Windows 8 Server, go to settings, and I go to network, you see the adapter I'm using is host only adapter, VirtualBox host only Ethernet adapter number 2. Make sure that the machine you have created has the same adapter as the server that has the Windows deployment services. Alright, and it should work there. Before I power it on, I just want to mention that somewhere along the line when you start up the machine and you're trying to boot it, you may come across a warning saying WDS client having trouble initializing Windows deployment services mode. If you wish to get rid of that, you have to go into File, Preferences, go down to Network, and somewhere here you should see an option of disabling VirtualBox DHCP, something like that. I recently upgraded my operating system to Windows 10, so I'm not seeing that option anymore, but I've already done it before, so I'm safe. So now I'm going to power on the machine. It's going to ask for a startup disk. I'm not going to choose any, so click cancel. And click FN12 or F12, function 12, and you're going to select LAN. So I have to press L. This will come up, and press F12 again. You should see Windows is loading files, and if you scroll on to the bottom, you should ensure that your IP address is here. If you do not see that, then you have problems. So I'm just going to fast forward a bit until it's ready. Alright, so you see that setup is starting. In a while I should see somebody come up saying Windows Deployment Services. If you do not see that, that means you have done something wrong. So as you can see, comes up, it says Windows Deployment Services, so I know in fact that it is the services is in fact working. So I'm just going to go through the process here. Ask for the administrator, well, my credentials for my server from my server PC. And this is the operating system I wish to install. So click next. This is the amount of space allocated to the for your local disk. I'm leaving it as 25 gigabytes for now. And it's about to initiate this session, which will soon be followed by the installation of the Windows 7 operating system. This process will take a while, so I'll fast forward until it's ready to begin. Alright, so after a while of rebooting, this is the next step that will come up. Just going to, yeah, I'll choose that for now. Click next. Type a username. I'll accept the license terms. To use recommended settings. After restarting again, hopefully this is the final time it will restart. So you see it's preparing the computer for its first use. And after a little while again, this is now set up and it's asking me to log on. And here it is, Windows 7 on one of the virtual machines I've just created. Just I'll have to change this later. I want to show that everything is intact. Alright, so you see I've successfully deployed Windows 7 onto a machine using Windows Deployment Services. I would like to thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.